All right, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going over 5 things you should watch out for before buying a pre-owned Alfa Romeo Giulia. This here is my 2017 Alfa, and today I'm going to be going over 5 things that you should probably take a look at if you're considering buying one of these things used. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We love all sorts of visitors and anyone that is new around here. But please, if you like what you see and you like the other videos, take a moment to consider just subscribing to the channel and liking the video. If you love Giulias and you love cars in general or anything of the sorts, you're going to love this channel. So thank you for stopping by. We hope that you enjoy the video. So without further ado, let's get right into the first thing you should be wary of when buying a pre-owned Giulia. Now, this is good advice when buying any used car. However, the first thing you want to look at when you're buying a pre-owned Giulia is actually the cosmetics of the car. So you want to take a look at the outside and make sure that there's no evident damage or dings or anything to the Giulia, because these cars especially are known to be kind of mistreated when it comes to service and stuff. So for example, when I originally picked up this Giulia almost 3 years ago, the dealership I got it from said that the headlight needed to be replaced. So this headlight here actually wasn't fully working, or there just wasn't something quite right about the way it was in the housing and all that. So they did have it replaced for me. Now with that came a removal of the front bumper. And you do have to remove the front bumper, which is kind of a pain in the butt to get to the headlight, but that's just how it is for most cars. Upon removing it and reinstalling the bumper, however, though, the service people did not put it in quite right. As you can see, there's just the gaps don't quite, the gap is good, but it doesn't quite line up. As you can see, I can kind of push the bumper around and it does stick out just slightly. So it's not 100%. Now, this doesn't really bother me is because I have a working headlight and I'd rather have that than a perfect panel there. But it is something you want to look out for when you're buying this car, is just things like this. These sensor covers here, mind the dirtiness of the car, but these sensor covers here are often missing on Giulias that are used. They're either a big black hole or somebody's put the wrong color cap in there. So make sure you have your sensors and your sensor covers, and just make sure that there's no evident damage to this car. Always want to just check around it and make sure that everything looks good. But besides that, this is just pretty standard for buying a used car. You just want to make sure that on the outside everything looks cosmetically correct. All right, the next thing you're going to want to look out for before you're buying one of these pre-owned is you want to check under the hood, and you want to make sure that everything looks correct. Now, this particular thing I'm about to say pertains mostly to 2017 Giulias, as Alfa Romeo did kind of update some things under the hood from 2018 and on. However, for 2017 Giulias, or just used Giulias in general, you're going to want to check around the hood, especially near the turbo here, at the seals and the coolant hoses. And you just want to check that your coolant level is at a proper amount, and you're going to want to make sure that there isn't any leaks or anything going on in this engine. These Giulias, the 2017s, now this isn't for all of them, again, this is just for mostly the 2017 models. This coolant hose here is known to deteriorate, and actually I had that happen to me around the 31,000 mile mark. This actually just blew right off of the coolant connector here to the turbo, and it just disintegrated and the coolant went everywhere. Now, it didn't leave me stranded, as there was still coolant in the engine, so I was able to kind of just duct tape it back on and drive the car until I was, safely home. But this is something that you want to be wary of, as this could end up doing damage to the turbo and doing damage to your engine if this breaks off and you're not wary of it. So you just want to check. They did, again, replace this in the 2018 and up, so this is a lot more reliable now. But for these 2017 model Giulias, you're just going to want to check all sorts of coolant hoses. The radiator hose, you want to make sure that that's not damaged and that's not weeping, those hoses down there. And just make sure that everything looks good under the hood. If anything looks tampered with, or anything looks like it just doesn't belong, or there is some gouges or something's leaking, you just want to smell the engine, make sure that nothing's leaking out, all your fluids are good, and everything looks good under this hood. So definitely want to check for under the hood and make sure there's no leaks or anything. when you're buying an Alfa Romeo Giulia used. All right, the third thing you're gonna wanna watch out for before buying one of these is actually in the trunk. You're gonna wanna check the battery. So if we undo this panel here and pull this away, that gives you access to your battery here. Now, you're gonna wanna ask the dealer or whoever's selling it to you when the last time the battery was replaced. And you're just going to want to check to make sure that it's actually the correct voltage battery that's in the car, as these Alfa Romeos are a little bit temperamental when it comes to battery. If it starts to lose battery percentage, like it's under 75% battery, some things like little electrical things will not work in the car, like your auto stop start. Your audio system will sometimes fail. So you're just going to want to check that the battery is up to date. It's relatively new, it has good charge, and it's the correct voltage for the car, because that can sometimes affect the way this car drives and how some of the electrics work. So just double check that the battery itself is good, and you can also do that by going in the car and checking, you know, some of the little features and all the electrical things. Make sure all your defrosters and all your lights and everything are working, because if this thing does dip below a certain percentage, some of those things will start to fail. So just double check your battery and ask your owner how long it's been in the car and when it's been replaced recently. So make sure you check your voltage and your battery before you buy it. All right, the next thing you're going to want to look out for before buying a Giulia is actually on the inside. You're going to want to check and make sure that everything just works. And you're also going to want to check through your infotainment the maintenance on the car and when the last time it was serviced, the oil changed, tires rotated, tire pressures, just kind of the simple stuff that the car diagnostics will give you. So actually the way you can do that is if you come down here, you're going to hit menu, and then this will bring up this page here. You're going to want to go to the car, and here you're going to go to car status. Now this will give you a readout of your tire pressure, your last maintenance, scheduled maintenance, when the next one should be, and your oil level. So as you can see here, all of the tire pressures look good on the Giulia. Here you can see my next scheduled maintenance. I've got about 6,000 miles, 71 days, so you can tell that the oil was changed relatively recently. And here you can actually check the oil level and get an updated reading if you were to run the car and idle it for a little bit on a flat surface. And you can see that my oil level is absolutely perfect. So you're just going to want to check some things like that. Make sure that all of your buttons here work. Everything, it goes into gear, obviously. When you start the car up, you want to make sure there's no lights on the dash or anything like that. Check to make sure your auto stop start works. Make sure your sound system sounds good. You're just going to want to check because, again, like I said with the previous one in the battery, sometimes those little electrical gremlins kind of creep into these cars and keep them from performing the way they should. So you're just going to want to check that the car is in good mechanical condition in terms of maintenance. Get records from the owner or the dealer if it has been serviced. You're just going to want to check all of those things out. Make sure that it's had any recalls done and changed and updated, because again, those can sometimes really screw with the car too. So just going to want to check to make sure that this car is up to date and healthy, and that everything that should be done to it has been done to it, and everything is working the way it should. All right, and then the last thing to do is you're just going to want to take it for a test drive. So you're going to want to start it up and just double check again that everything is driving okay. The car sounds good. It's getting good power. If you've never driven one of these cars before and you don't really know what to expect, I can tell you this much. The car should feel pretty sporty. It should ride relatively smooth. The transmission should be very non-intrusive to the cabin. And on a stock Giulia, you won't be able to hear too much of that engine note either. So it should be relatively quiet inside the cabin, and it should be just smooth and relatively enjoyable. To test it further, you're also just going to make sure you go through all of your modes here. So just going to want to flick through between A, N, and D, and just make sure that you do feel a difference when you're driving it and that all of the modes are working correctly. So again, if you haven't driven one of these before and you don't know what to expect, D, or dynamic mode, should be the sportiest and most aggressive mode in terms of engine response and throttle response, all that kind of stuff. All the way, if you go down to A mode, it should be your most comfy, economical, and cruising mode. So again, go through all the modes, go through all your things, make sure it goes into gear, get it up to highway speeds, make sure you're not smelling anything, you're hearing no crazy noises. You can also check here, if you hit this button on the end of the stalk there, you can go through and check the miles per gallon this car's getting, and kind of your eco driving, how everything's going there. So again, just drive the car, make sure everything's driving right, should feel good and smooth. And again, this is good advice just for buying any pre-owned car, but for these Giulias, you're just going to want to make sure that there is no knocking sounds or anything crazy going on, no leaks, nothing. It's driving good and you're getting full power, because sometimes these things are known to have a fuse blow, which can tend to limit the power. So you're just going to want to make sure that in dynamic mode, in the normal modes, and all of the modes, you're getting good power, the car feels smooth, and it is not being interrupted by anything or affected by anything. So always test your cars before you buy them. All right, guys, and with that, that's going to conclude the video. Those are 5 things you should be wary of before you buy a pre-owned Alfa Romeo Giulia. Now, overall, these cars are extremely reliable. I have owned this car for 3 years and put almost 20,000 miles on it. And besides that little bit of a coolant issue, I have not had anything go wrong. And I can say that these cars are amazing to drive and that you should definitely consider picking one up. Just, you need to be smart when you're looking at some of them, because people can tend to abuse these cars a little bit. So just make sure that everything looks good, and you're gonna have one heck of a time owning and driving this amazing, amazing car. So if you did enjoy this video and you found it to be helpful and my advice to actually be good, please let me know in the comments down below, or you can like the video and subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna have more videos with this car, and hopefully, since my channel is growing at a good rate now, we're gonna have some more cars on the channel, and we're gonna get some reviews and everything done too. So again, like, subscribe, comment, and thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope to see you in the next one, and have a great new year, guys. Peace out.